First of all, there's his lie about socialism. Right? He's saying, oh, yeah, Democrats are socialists. I got an email, well, Fred got an email this morning from the Trump-Pence campaign. Dear Fred, a new Axios poll shows that just 18% of swing voters have a favorable view of socialism. That hasn't stopped every 2020 Democrat candidate. So he can't even write the name of the party. It's the Democratic Party, right? And increasingly, this is showing up. I saw this in a New York Times story yesterday. It's a Democrat candidate or words to that effect. I've seen it. I see it on TV every day. It's amazing how this. Anyhow, that hasn't stopped every 2020 Democrat candidate from embracing the ideas of big government socialists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. Putting the crosshairs on these two women again. 2 out of the 4 of them, to try to appeal to their extreme left-wing base. We've seen socialism completely fail in countries like Venezuela and Greece, while America's economy is as strong as it's ever been thanks to President Trump's America First agenda. President Trump wants to know what you think about socialism and these radical left ideas. Democrats are totally out of touch with the American people. We need to send a resounding message to the left that big government socialists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar don't represent the views of the American people. So to send that big resounding message, what do? Click here to give us some money. And sure enough, Trump has raised $140 million so far with this kind of pitch. But it gets weirder. This Judd Legum's got a website, popular.info, and it's called Popular Information, popular.info. And it's basically a newsletter, and I signed up for it when Judd was a guest on this program back, a month or so ago. And he's been doing some really, really extraordinary investigative journalism. And this is like the under-the-radar campaign that Trump is running. And, my question for you is, do you think that it's going to work? I mean, will people buy this stuff, that Democrats are all socialists, that, and Trump's pink and purple pitch for women, the lies that he's telling women, that left-wing is filled with violence. We're going to talk with Julio Rivera in the next hour about that. Oh, that's going to be interesting. But Judd points out, Trump only won 41% of women in the election in 2016. 41%. It was 53% of white women, but when you factor in women of color, it was down to 41%. And now that 41% has dropped to 37%. So they've launched this campaign, and in fact, an ABC poll just found that among women generally, Trump loses to Elizabeth Warren by 11 points, to Bernie Sanders by 13 points, to Kamala Harris by 15 points, and to Joe Biden by 20 points. Why? Well, maybe it's because he's been accused of sexually assaulting more than a dozen women. Last week, E. Jean Carroll, or 2 weeks ago, came out and said that Trump raped her in 1996. He launched a full-scale assault on women's reproductive rights as president. He only has 3 women in his cabinet. We haven't seen that low a percentage of women in a presidential cabinet since George Herbert Walker Bush back, 2 generations ago. So as a consequence of this, the Trump campaign has launched this counteroffensive, heavily using Ivanka. It's called Women for Trump. And, for example, they have an ad. These are all Facebook ads, so you don't see them. So nobody's rebutting them. Nobody's talking about them. They're very tightly targeted. They're only going to women. They're only going to women that they think might be swing voters or might be willing to vote for Donald Trump. And this is one. It shows President Trump signed legislation to improve the federal firearm background check system and keep guns out of the hands of dangerous criminals. That's what the ad says, and it's got a picture of a couple of women with, doing a thumbs up as they're looking at their cell phone, and it's got the Women for Trump logo, and it's all pink and blue. But the reality is that, first of all, this is from one of Trump's speeches. He said, everyday citizens across America exercise their constitutional right to defend themselves, their families, and their communities. That's a constitutional right. He's talking about Democrats, want to take it away from you. They will take it away. You let these maniacs get into office, and they'll take that right away. We know that the only way to stop a good guy with a gun is a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. He changed the fugitive from justice law, right? There's a federal law that says fugitives from justice can't buy guns. Trump not only narrowed that definition, but he purged 500,000 records of fugitives from justice out of the federal background check system. So there's only 2,300 in the system now. He rolled back an Obama-era rule that would make it more difficult for people with severe mental illness to purchase guns. Now, he threatened to veto legislation that would have expanded background checks. But none of that is in the Women for Trump ad, right? None of that. And in fact, the legislation that it says he signed, it was just, it was something that was tacked onto a 2018 spending bill. Trump had nothing to do with. And it added $125 million to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. Big whoop, right? Okay, here's another one. This is another ad. It says, President Trump, this is, again, it's only on Facebook. If you're male, you've never seen these ads. If you're female, you might have seen them, but probably not if you're a progressive or a Democrat. They're going after, Republican women. They need to get those numbers up. And they're going after swing voting women. And they can very tightly target such women as a result of all the information that Mark Zuckerberg is sucking out of our Facebook accounts. So this one says, President Trump supports protecting patients with pre-existing health conditions and diseases and increasing health care choice for individuals. Right. He signed on to a lawsuit and is defending a lawsuit that would invalidate Obamacare in its entirety, including the protections for people with pre-existing conditions. He has supported legislation that would do the same thing, repeal Obamacare with no replacement. But Women for Trump, they get told something completely different. Paid family leave. This is another one. This is another Women for Trump ad. It's all pink. It shows a bunch of women holding up signs that say, Make America Great Again, and Women for Trump. Big smiles, all nice, pretty blonde women. And he says, President Trump supports a plan for nationwide paid family leave that gives parents 6 weeks of paid leave to care for their newborn child. Paid leave? Does that mean the employer's paying them? No, it doesn't. Does that mean the government's paying them? No, it doesn't. Well, where does the money come from? Oh, you get to take it out of your own Social Security. This is an attack on Social Security. This is the first step toward privatizing Social Security and viewing it as a savings account rather than as an insurance policy, which is actually what it is. It's an insurance. It's basically an insurance policy, insurance against poverty and old age. And Ivanka Trump and Marco Rubio are pushing this thing to take the first major bite out of Social Security. And Trump is saying, Trump supports a plan for nationwide family paid leave that gives parents 6 weeks of paid leave to care for their newborn child. Right. His economic message for women. He says, this is another Trump for women ad, and it's all pink, and it's got a couple of black women looking at a cell phone that's being held by a blonde woman, and they're like, oh boy, look at that. And it says, President Trump's policies have created more than 5 million new jobs, and the national unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in 49 years. And the headline, now there are now more than 75 million women in the workforce, which is a record number of women working thanks to President Trump's economic policies. But really, in fact, this is just an extension of trends that started under Obama. And under the last 29 months of the Obama administration, Obama added 6.4 million jobs. The first 29 months of the Trump administration, only 5.6 million jobs. So Trump is not doing as good a job as Obama did in getting jobs for women as well as anybody else. And yet this is what Trump is saying. So is it going to work? Do are friends of yours buying into this stuff?